Welcome to today's webinar on Alberta billing. My name is Mandy and I'm the Senior Product Trainer here on the training team. I started with QHR on the training team in the spring of 2020, and I train on the advanced EMR courses in Ontario, Nova Scotia, and Alberta billing. Today's event is live and members of the training team are standing by to answer your questions. The chat has been disabled, so please ask your question using the Q&A button located at the top of the Teams meeting window. Once selected, you'll have the question and answer pane opened on the right side of the window. Click Ask a Question to get started. When you see New Post, click on it to see the newly posted question. When the team has answered your question, you'll see Show One Comment under the question. Click Show One Comment to open the conversation. Please sit back and enjoy today's event. There's no need to take notes as the presentation is being recorded and will be available on the Accuro resources page for your future reference. During today's webinar, I'll cover how to configure a provider in Accuro so they can bill. I'll go over where and how to enter claims, the submission process, and finally how to reconcile the claims and deal with any errors. Just switch over to my Accuro database. All right, so the first thing I want to look at, whoops. Oh, I won't move, there we go. All right, so the first thing that I want to look at is how to set up a provider in Accuro. When a new provider is added to your database, the Accuro Client Services team will populate all the information provided on the new provider form that was submitted. All the billing defaults in Accuro live in the Provider Wizard. So I'll start by going to the Accuro Start menu, selecting Tools, and then Configure Providers. I could also just press F2 to open this provider management screen. I'll see a list of all the providers in the database, and I'll select that one that I want here on the left, and then click the Configure button, and this will open up that Provider Wizard. The first screen is the provider details. I can use this groups pane here to add a provider to a group. These groups can be used to filter the claims section or when running billing reports with the built-in reports. I'll click the next button at the bottom here to get to the billing details page. This is where I'm going to see the majority of the provider's billing defaults. In this configuration pane, I'm going to see the business arrangement number. The green add button can be used to add a second BA number, and if the provider has more than one, the blue arrows can be used to reorder them. Whatever is at the top of this window becomes the default in the claim details window. Any provider that's submitting will need to have a submitter prefix. The provider specialty will be listed in the specialty code drop-down list. If another specialty needs to be added, I'd click the ellipses button here and select one from the list. This will add it to the provider specialty code dropdown. Whatever is at the top of this list will be the default in the claim details window. If I needed these in a different order, I would have to remove them using this remove specialty button and re-add them in the correct order. The provider defaults pane is where I can set some additional defaults for the claim details window. If the provider uses mostly one service or diagnostic code, a default for all claims can be set here. If the provider sees their patients for the same type of visit or same reason more than 50% of the time, patient's last service code and patient's last diagnostic code settings will be helpful. These will populate the last code used in any subsequent claim for that patient. These codes can be overwritten whenever necessary. I can also turn on the option to have the patient's referring provider populate into the claim. Keep in mind the referring provider must be added to the patient's demographics before the claim is created for this setting to work. The bottom of this section is for WCB billing. If providers want to submit to WCB through Accuro, they will need to contact the Accuro Client Services team to get their WCB profile linked to the QHR account. Once that is set up, the Client Services team member will enter information into this bottom pane. Once all the billing details are added, I'll click the Next button to get to the billing facilities. All facilities available for this provider are listed in this pane here. To add a new facility, I'll click the ellipses button just to the right of the facility field, and this will open the Find Facility window. I can search by facility name or by number. All hospital facilities should be available to search, and others like offices must be manually added. To search for a facility, I can just start typing into either of these fields and then clicking the Find button to display the results. I'll select the one that I want and then click the OK button. And now I'll see that facility listed here in the facility field. If the facility I've selected requires a functional center, I'll select it using this dropdown and then click the green Add button to add it to this provider's facility list. I can use the blue arrows here to reorder the facilities. Whatever is at the top is going to be the default in the claim details window. If I needed to add a new facility to this database, I would start by opening that Find Facility window again, so just clicking that ellipsis button. And then I always recommend searching for the facility by number first, just to see if someone else has already added it to the database. Once facilities are added, they can't be deleted, so it's best not to add them a second time. If I hit that Find button and there's no matching results, I can click this Yes button to start adding a new facility, or I can just click the New button here down at the bottom. This is where I'm going to enter all of my facilities information. You'll see that it actually copied that facility number that I had searched. Typically, your effective date is going to be the same date your submitter prefix is effective for. And if you're not sure when your end date will be, you can just set it to 100 years after the effective date. You will need to select a facility type from the drop-down list, and you can indicate if your facility requires a functional center just by using this checkbox here. When you click that Add button, your new facility will now appear in the search results window down at the bottom. You can edit any facility by right-clicking on it from the search results pane and selecting Edit Facility Name. For manually added facilities, you can edit most fields except for that facility number. So again, just make sure you're being careful when you're adding that in. For facilities that were already in Accuro, you are a bit limited to what you can edit. It's usually just the facility name, the facility type, and the Require Functional Center checkbox. To save any changes in the provider wizard, just click the Next button until Finish becomes clickable. And the changes are not saved until that Finish button is clicked. The last piece to set up for billing through Accuro is the H-Link key. When providers apply for their business arrangement number and submitter prefix through Alberta Health, the Alberta Health team will send a setup request email to the Accuro Client Services team to initiate the Accuro side of this setup. This process does involve some back and forth between the provider, the H-Link team, and the Accuro Client Services team. Once the process is complete, the Accuro Client Services team will reach out to the provider to give them their H-Link username and password. This username and password must be used to submit claims through Accuro. Once all that configuration is completed and the H-Link username and password is set up, you're going to be ready to submit your claims. All right. All the claims that, there are two types of claims that can be created. The first is a claim that's linked to a scheduled visit. This type of claim is automatically created each time an appointment is booked on the scheduler. The second type is a new bill. This is a claim that is not linked to a scheduled visit. All claims will live in the claims section, which is broken down into some different tabs. The first tab here is Daily Claims. This will hold all claims created for the service date set at the top. This is all claims regardless of how they were created, the insurer that is set, and their status. This tab can be filtered by a single date or by a date range. There are several places where claims that came from appointments can be opened. From the claims section, you can right-click on any claim and select Claim Details, or I could just double-click on the claim to open it. From the scheduler, I can right-click on the appointment and select Claim Details. From the EMR section, I can right-click on the appointment here from the day sheet, and I can select View Bill. Or from the Encounter Notes tab, I can right-click on the appointment from this side panel on the left and hit Claim Details. Or from any note that's attached to that appointment, I can click the Open Claim Details button here right from the note window. Regardless of where you open it from, the Claim Details window will be the same. On the left-hand side, I'm going to see my patient and their demographic information. I can collapse either of these fields by clicking that black collapse expand arrow, and I can update my patient's demographics using this advanced patient pane. On the right at the top of the window, I'm going to see the service date and the provider. These fields are grayed out because this claim came from an appointment. If I were to create a new bill, I would just start by searching for my patient, and then I would be able to change that service date or provider as needed. Just below that is where I'm going to enter the service and the diagnostic codes. These can both be searched by code or by their description. If something has pre-populated into one of these fields, I can just click into that field and search for something different to overwrite that. You will notice that the amount populated as soon as I put my service code into this service code field. Below in the main details section is where I can change the insurer. This is going to pre-populate to whatever the patient has set as their default insurer. For this claim, if I needed to send it to WCB instead, I can just select that from the drop-down list. As soon as I do that, this button to the left of the insurer becomes clickable. This is going to allow me to create the WCB form that needs to go with this claim. In this WCB forms window, I'm going to see all of my patient's information populated at the top of the screen here. And then I need to choose the form that I want to create, and I want to make sure I'm picking the correct one based on the billing code that I had entered. A helpful tip here is knowing how to copy information from the first report of injury onto a subsequent form like this one. As soon as I selected my form, this claim dropdown appeared. I can select the claim that I want to copy the information from, and then click the Form button. So this has pulled in information into various fields on this form, including the employer details, the accident information, the injury information. Now I could just scroll down and fill out the required fields, which are going to be marked with that red dot. And when I'm done, I can print a full report or just a summary for the patient. The modifiers for the selected service code are available here on the right-hand side of the main details pane. These are broken into two categories, explicit and implicit. And modifiers are used to adjust the claim amount. Explicit modifiers are manually applied. If there are no modifiers available for the service code that you have entered, nothing will appear in this dropdown. If I were to go up and change my service code and then change my insurer, I'm now going to have some different modifiers that I could use. So if I had a really complex patient, I can use the CMGP modifier. And if I spent additional time with that patient, I can use the number field to the right to indicate that. So for example, the modifier CMGP03 indicates that I spent between 35 and 44 minutes managing that patient. You'll notice up here, the amount has updated now to reflect that. The implicit modifiers are automatically applied. So because this patient's age is over 75 and the specialty for this provider is set to general practice, this G75 GP modifier gets added automatically. Below the insurer field here on the left is the referred by field. This is where I can add a referring provider for the claim. This is a free type field. Or I can use that ellipses button to open the provider search window and search for a provider. I can also use this window to add a brand new provider to this database if needed. If you have the setting enabled to populate the referring provider into the claim automatically, remember that referring provider must be added to the patient's demographics before the claim is created or the appointment is booked. For hospital inpatient billing, I've got the admission date field here. And then below that, I'm going to have the calls and encounter number fields. These will always both default to 1. Calls is this first box, and it's like units for your service code. And then encounters is the second one, and this is used to indicate the provider saw the patient for a subsequent visit on the same date of service. Just below that is my facility drop-down list. These will be all the facilities that were added in the provider wizard. The facility can also be set to none. Once that is done, this location field just above it becomes clickable, and that can be set to home or other. In the other details pane, I'm going to see that business arrangement number that was set in the provider wizard. If there was more than one BA number added, I'd be able to select the alternate one using that drop-down list. Submission note, just below that, is included with the claim and sent to Alberta Health. This is a free type field, or I can create a list of pre-typed notes that can be selected in this drop-down, and that's done by clicking that ellipsis button and creating them in this Manage Note Macros window. Internal notes is an Accuro only field, and anything typed in here is not sent to Alberta Health. The options drop-down just to the right will default to none, but other options here can be selected. So for example, paper document, if I had to send a document to Alberta Health for this claim. This is also where I'm going to find my no charge and no show options. At the very bottom of the window, I'm going to see my patient's billing history. I can choose to show or hide this by using that black collapse expand arrow. Each user can also decide which columns are helpful here by using the column options button on the right-hand side. And then you can sort by any one of the columns by clicking into the column header, or rearrange the columns by clicking and dragging. Once all the information has been added, click the Save and Close button to save the claim and close the window. I can also click the Save button, which saves all of this information and leaves the claim window open. Save and New is going to save this claim and open a new blank claim, and then Cancel is not going to save this claim and just close the window. Once all the claim information is entered, the claims are ready to be submitted. There are a few places in the claims section where you can submit from. We recommend submitting from the Unsubmitted Claims tab, as this tab only holds government claims that are waiting to be sent. Any claim that's marked as no charge, no show, or has a non-government insurer will not be included in this tab. And once the claims are successfully submitted, they'll disappear from this tab. You can also submit from daily claims, which again is always going to hold the history of all claims created for the date or date range at the top. Because daily claims always holds that history, the only change that you're going to see is the submitted date gets filled out in this submitted column instead of saying the word no. This does make it a bit harder to tell what's been sent and what's been left back, as your government claims are going to be mixed with your private pay and third-party insurance claims. In the Unsubmitted Claims tab, I can see that I have several claims that have not been sent yet. Only claims with the minimum required information will be included in the submission file. That's going to be your patient's name, ULI, date of birth, and gender. The claim's also going to require a service code. Then depending on the service code used, there may be additional requirements such as diagnostic code or referring provider. When I click on a claim at the top here, it's going to tell me in this bottom left corner if my claim is marked as ready for submission or if it's missing information. When I click that Submit Claims button, only claims that are marked as ready for submission are going to be included in the file. Once I think all the claims are ready, I can use the Approve Claims button, which is this green checkmark button here in the bottom right corner. This button is handy if you're submitting from your Daily Claims tab, as it's going to show you a list of all the claims that are not going to be included in your submission file. When you click that Submit Claims button, a window will open prompting you to enter your HLink username and password. Daily logins is an HLink requirement, so Accuro can only save your login for 1 day, but you are able to submit more than once per day if needed. The billing cycle runs from Thursday to Wednesday, so the cutoff for submitting claims is every Thursday afternoon. A best practice is to submit by Wednesday night to guarantee your claims will be processed in the current billing cycle. From this window, once you enter your username and password, you're just going to hit that Submit button. And then you'll see, once you've submitted, the name of your submission file is going to appear in the Submit pane. The assessment reports are going to be available to download the following Friday. These assessments must be downloaded within 2 weeks of posting, otherwise you'll need to contact HLink to repost them. Downloading can be done from this same window just by clicking that Retrieve button. It is recommended that you perform a retrieval after each submission to just ensure that you're not missing anything. If you do have any files that you download, they'll be listed in this Retrieve pane down at the bottom. If you don't have any claims to submit, but you just want to do a retrieval, you can click the Assessments button here in the bottom right corner, and that's going to open up that same H-Link window. It'll just have the Submit button grayed out. The Submission Management window, which is opened by clicking this blue Configure button, has two tabs. The first is going to display all of the submission history from this database. Each submission is available in this drop-down list at the top, and when you click on one of these files, this bottom pane is going to show you all of the claims that were included in that file. The Include Incomplete checkbox can be used to include any files that were not successfully submitted in your submission drop-down list. And the button in the bottom right corner labeled Undo Submission does not undo the submission with Alberta Health. It only undoes the record of the submission in Accuro. The second tab here, Batch Status, can be filtered by your Submitted Since date or your Submitted Since drop-down here, and it displays the status of each submission file. When a submission file is sent, Accuro fills out the Submitted column and the Batch Number column. And when the retrieval file is downloaded, it's going to fill out these other columns. So you'll be able to see if your file was accepted, and if it wasn't, the reason why. After doing the retrieval, any claims that come back paid differently, which could be less or more than requested, or anything that's returned with an explanatory code will be displayed in your Not Reconciled tab. This is where you're going to work from. There are typically two things you're going to do with your errors, either fix them and resubmit them, or if they can't be fixed, mark them as Adjust Paid. To resubmit a claim, I'll start by opening my claim, and I can just double click on it to do that. And I'll make the required changes. So this one was missing a referring provider. So I can add that in, and I'll just check my resubmit checkbox. You will need to check resubmit for each service code that you're sending back. When resubmitting, you can leave this drop down here to the right, set to auto. There are other validation codes in that menu that can be used. If you're manually changing that validation code, just be sure to include a submission note as well. The other options available in there are add, change, reassess, and delete. If no changes need to be made, you can resubmit using the right-click menu in here and using the resubmit option. This works like checking or unchecking that resubmit checkbox in the claim. Once the claim is flagged for resubmission, the claim line text will change color and the claim will go back into your Unsubmitted Claims tab where it should be resubmitted from. We recommend this because the Unsubmitted Claims tab will hold the claim in its entirety, whereas your Not Reconciled tab only displays the errors. So when you submit, you are submitting only what's visible on the screen that's marked as ready for submission. So if you were to add a new service code to a claim that had been returned on an error report, you're not going to see that new service code in your Not Reconciled tab. Once your claim is resubmitted, it will clear out of your Not Reconciled tab. If you're not able to resubmit a claim, the options you're going to use in here are either Adjust to Paid or Write-Off. Both of these will adjust the billed amount to match the paid amount, clear the error from the Not Reconciled tab, and tell Accuro to stop tracking any outstanding amount. Write-Off goes one step further and puts the outstanding amount onto a report that can be generated. When either option is selected, you're going to be presented with a window where you can add an additional reason. This can be a free typed reason, or you can create a list of reasons using the Manage option. This reason is going to display in your claim history. You can also just leave the reason blank and click the OK button. Once this is done, you're going to see that claim clear out of your Not Reconciled tab. The other option I like to talk about in here is Accept Response. This only clears the error from the Not Reconciled tab. It does not tell Accuro to stop tracking the outstanding amount. This means that when you select this option, any outstanding amount is still going to appear in your Accounts Receivable tab. Some users find tracking pins helpful in the Not Reconciled tab. These are the push pin icons that can be attached to any claim. And this is like putting a sticky note on a claim that you want to remember something about. For example, if you needed to call that clinic about a referring provider's billing number, you can just attach a tracking pin to remind yourself. Anything with a tracking pin attached will display in your Tracked Claims tab. A helpful tip is knowing that tracked claims is another place that you can submit from. Tracking pins are created in Manage Claim Tracking, which can be found by going to that Accuro Start menu, and then you can just type the word track or even the word pin into that search field at the top, and then your tracking pins are created using that green Add button. Once you've got at least one tracking pin created, you can right-click on the claim anywhere in the claim section, and you'll have this Set Tracking Pin option in the menu. That's going to open up a submenu where you can choose the tracking pin to attach. Tracking pins are a manual add, manual remove, meaning that they do not automatically come off of your claims. If you don't need to track your claim anymore, you're just going to set your tracking pin to none. Ideally, you want your Not Reconciled tab to be empty or as empty as possible. Once you action a claim by either resubmitting it or marking it as a Just to Paid or Write-Off, it's going to be removed from the tab, leaving only what you need to work on. A helpful tip here is if you have explanatory codes that should always be marked as a Just to Paid, you can configure Accuro to do this automatically. This is done by clicking the blue Configure button here and adding a configuration response. The Adjust to Paid option is billing number specific, so you do have to choose a billing number before that Adjust to Paid option becomes available in the response action dropdown. The Assessments tab is where you can view the weekly reports. No work is done here, it's just a place to view these historical reports. This is the only tab that is solely controlled by this payment period window down at the bottom. Whatever date is highlighted is the report that you're viewing in this tab. Keep in mind that if any claim here was paid differently or had an explanatory code attached to it, it'll also go into your Not Reconciled tab where you'll work on it. There should be a report date here from every Friday. We do encourage you to regularly ensure that you're not missing any reports, as HLink only keeps reports available to download for a limited time. For those who are doing WCB billing through Accuro, the WCB Assessments Matching tab is where any unmatched WCB responses will go. There are a few filters at the top that are helpful. When the All Assessments checkbox is enabled, you're seeing all unmatched responses, regardless of the payment period down at the bottom. If you uncheck that, you do have to select the payment period that you want to view. You also have a provider filter, and this allows you to select which provider's unmatched responses to display at the top. Only providers with WCB claims that have been submitted are going to display in this dropdown. The top section here is going to display the responses that need to be matched to Accuro claims. When you click on a response, Accuro is going to display any matches based on the patient's ULI, the service date, and the service code down in the bottom section. If the appropriate claim is not displaying, you can use this patient search field in the middle to search for a patient, and this is going to display all of their WCB claims, regardless of the date or the provider. There are only two actions to be performed in this tab. You're either going to match a claim response to the Accuro claim or mark the claim response as not on file if it can't be matched. Ideally, all of your responses from this top section should be matched to the Accuro claims using this bottom section. So this is done by clicking on your claim response so it's highlighted, clicking on the Accuro claim you want to match it to so it's highlighted, and clicking the Match button. This is going to remove the response from your from your WCB Assessment Matching tab, and once it's matched, it moves it to your Assessments tab. Any claim that was paid differently or had an explanatory code will also be put into your Not Reconciled tab, and then you can follow your regular process to handle those claims. If there is nothing to match a claim response to, it can be marked as not on file using this Not on File checkbox. This lets Accuro know the claim wasn't billed here and there's no claim to match that response to. All claims that are marked as not on file can easily be cleared from this tab by clicking the Clear NOF button. This hides the claim so it doesn't take up unnecessary space in that top section. To bring them back, just click Show Not on File Records. And if you want to unmark something as not on file, you can just uncheck that checkbox. The last tab that I want to talk about is the Accounts Receivable tab. This tab is used to see all claims that are waiting for payment. You can use your insurer dropdown at the top to select an individual insurer or a group of insurers. You can choose to include overpaid claims or hide any invoiced bills, which is typically used for your third-party insurers. And like all other tabs in the claims section, you do have the option to filter this by provider. Just remember in this tab, you do have to click that Find Claims button to display any results. Right now, I'm just looking at my government insurers. When you're looking at that, it is very helpful to sort by your submitted date. So it kind of tells you when that claim should have been paid. So for example, if you're seeing all claims that were submitted in a specific payment period from a few weeks ago that are missing payment, that could let you know that you might have missed downloading a response file. If that happens, you can always reach out to the client services team who can help you figure out which file you need to ask HLink to repost. The Accounts Receivable tab is color-coded based on the claim's service date, so this helps you keep an eye on any claims that might be approaching their submission deadline. And this tab also has very similar options in the right-click menu to the Not Reconciled tab. You can look at your claims history, mark a claim as write-off or adjust to paid. You can open the claim details or set a tracking pin. We recommend checking this tab after you've cleared as much as possible from your Not Reconciled or your Unsubmitted Claims tab. So that's everything that I wanted to share with you today. Before we check out our Accuro resources page, I'd like to let everyone know that we will be posting a survey. We appreciate you attending today and value your feedback. Please take a few minutes to share your thoughts on how we did. You should see the survey pop up now. If you don't see this pop up, just click on the chat icon at the top of the Teams meeting and click on View Poll on the right-hand side. The survey will remain open for a few minutes after today's session. To learn more about billing workflows, please visit our Accuro resources page, which is found by going to the website accuroemr.com/support. Here's where you're going to find all of the help and support you need. You can use the search field at the top to keyword search for articles, or you can browse by topic by using these buttons. So if I click on Billing and Claims, I can scroll down and see the commonly used Alberta claims articles. From the main page, I can select any of the icons here to take me to a specific resource. So if I click on the Explore Training button there, I can open the training page. And here I can find the latest webinar recordings. I can learn about one-on-one expert-led training. I can sign up for the Accuro Learning Academy, which is our free online training portal. Once you've signed up for that Accuro Learning Academy, you can take our Accuro Performance Training courses, which is our comprehensive certification program designed to enrich your overall Accuro knowledge. It takes Accuro and breaks it into 6 different topics at 3 progressive levels: Basic, Core, and Pro. When you log into your Accuro Learning Academy, to access the Accuro Performance Training, you can just click on it here from the top of the screen. And one of the training topics is claims, so you can choose that as your training topic. Claims is going to be broken down again by province, so you can just choose the province and click View Learning Path to load the course content. All right, thank you again, and I hope you enjoyed today's presentation and you learned something new.